What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, it's really just going to be a candid, discussion, conversation about the fact that I'm really leaning towards selling my MR2 that formerly had a J series in it. And when I say sell, I mean just a full part out of the car. To really get a good understanding of my thought process, we got to go back to May of 2019 when I first took possession of this car. In the clip that you guys are seeing on the screen, I'm expressing a lot of frustration to my brother because I just got the car like literally a few minutes before that clip, and it already had issues. It was overheating, didn't want to turn on. I quickly noted that there was a lot of other things wrong with it as well. The car was rough, and my initial reaction at the time was, I'm just going to enjoy the car for the summer, and then after that, I'm just going to part the car out. The supercharger whine on this car is just really intoxicating. I mean, just check out this sound clip here. Another thing to note is that this was my first heavily modified car. Prior to this, I'd done things like, I remember I actually blew up the transmission in this car and replaced it with the same transmission. I'd also done entry-level like basic mods, such as putting a cooled air intake on a car or putting coilovers on them, but I never had anything highly modified like this. I decided to end up keeping the car at the time because, well, the supercharger whine was just super awesome. And the other thing is that I saw this as an opportunity to learn more without ruining a really good car. Because if I messed this thing up, I mean, it was already messed up. I couldn't make it worse. Anyways, fast forward to, let's just say, beginning of 2025. I finished the 2GR swap on the hardtop MR2 that I own. I like the 2GR setup so much that I decided to pull the supercharged powertrain out of my T-top MR2 in favor of a turbo 2GR setup. After removing the engine out of this car, I went through and I made a list of all the parts that I was gonna need. And there's quite a few things that were missing because the J series was in this car. So I quickly realized that the best and most cost-effective way for me to get everything was just buying a parts car. There was two parts cars that I heavily considered buying. Unfortunately, those deals just didn't end up happening. The reason for that really doesn't matter for our situation. The big takeaway though is both of those cars had way cleaner chassis than this one. And it really got me thinking, it's probably not worth it to put all the time and money into a chassis that's this rough. And it's actually pretty ironic because the reason I kept this chassis was that it was in pretty rough shape. And now the reason why I feel like it's time to move on is because of the condition of it. There's really just a couple things that concern me about the car, but they're pretty significant things. So like the first one is just how much rust this car has. If you pick an area of it, there's gonna be some. So the trunk, down here in the rockers, underneath that side vent, the floor pans on the passenger side, the frunk area. Obviously some areas are worse than others. I would say the frunk and the rockers are definitely the worst. It's to the point where there's literally holes because of the rust. Like you can actually take like a screwdriver, for example, and just push through the metal. It's so bad. The other thing is this car was in a front end wreck at some point. Specifically, it hit the passenger side. The reason that I found out was I actually took off the original bumper from the car. It was the front core support here was actually pushed in and slightly mangled. So it was just never replaced after that accident. And then when I looked at things closer, that's when I came over here and realized that the rocker was actually buckled right here, and this whole side never lined up well, and that just made so much sense. It also explained why I always had issues with the front end setup. I had to compensate on this side. Those are really the two big concerns. There's a bunch of like little things that are obviously going to add up in terms of time and money as well. So you just have things like this. Previous owner cut a giant hole in the firewall. I just put a plate over it, but honestly, that's not the proper way to fix it because in the event of a fire, that's an easy way for the fire to get into the cabin. So that's a huge safety issue. There's really two options I'm even considering at this point. Option one is I do end up keeping the car and I go through the process of fixing everything. Really, the main downside to this is just the money that it's gonna cost me, because it's gonna take a lot of time and money, because at the end of the day, everything is fixable. It just really comes down to, is it worth it? My emotional side really likes this decision because the way I got the car, all the memories I've made with it, and just how much I've learned, I feel like that'd be really cool to keep it with me to go to that next level or step. But logically, it's just really hard to justify. Option number two is I do a complete part out of this car and I use a different chassis for the 2GR turbo build. As to what chassis that is, I honestly don't have that figured out yet, assuming this is the route I go. The easy option would be that I could actually just use this. When I initially put the 2GR in this car, I did note that I want this to be like my street car, you know, use it for date nights and stuff like that. Because I picked up the Miata, I'm not really as concerned about that anymore because the Miata is the date night car. So this thing can go a little bit more track oriented, and it really would be set up well for what I want to do, because the classes that I want to be competing in this car with, it needs to have a full interior. So this car would actually fit the bill for everything. All I would need to do is throw a turbo transmission in it and then raise up the money for the turbo kit, and I'm off to the races because it literally has everything else. I could also just leave this car the way it is and pick up a completely different chassis to use for the build. I don't really have that sorted out yet. That's assuming I even go with option 2. At this point, I am leaning towards that one a lot more, but it's not set in stone yet. So I'm just gonna let it sit here in storage off to the side for now while I just kind of mull it over the next few months. I have sold all the J series parts, so I got a good chunk of change there. Essentially, that means once I make a decision, I can start moving forward with progress on things. I'll probably end up having a decision on this car by winter. In the meantime, I'd love to know what you guys think. Essentially, should I keep the car and use this as the base for the 2GR turbo build, or should I just do a complete part out and use a different chassis? So again, I'd love to hear what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next video.